Hey, Bass and Bob members and followers of Boatwrx. We're here for our final, well, I say final. We'll be still getting, some expert information between now and Saturday. But for our final, this is our 5th roundtable discussion leading up to the Big Bass Bash. We're 0 minus 4 days. So so it's getting real. I think we have some good understanding at this point of what the conditions are going to be, which are going to be interesting for the panel. We'll talk to the panel here about how to catch them based on these changing conditions. We've had changing conditions all week. Over the last week, we're going to have some changing conditions during the Big Bass Bash. Nothing new there. That seems to always happen. Our great panel we have the great Dion Hibden, we've got the great Peyton Hibden, we've got the great Rob Beltman, Bassing Rob, Steve Wilson, instructional fishing. You guys all know Steve from reading his weekly fishing reports. Then we have Joe McBride, who's the general manager here at Boatwrx, and also a tournament, very established tournament angler and great angler, knows what's going on. But before we get started talking about fishing, this is going to be a very interesting discussion because we are really close right now, and the conditions have been changing and it continue to change. Before we jump right into the fishing, Joe, the general manager here at Boatwrx, here very close to PB2 in Osage Beach, you can't fish without a boat. So there's going to be a lot of guys come this weekend, come Thursday, Friday practice. They're going to run into a motor problem. They're going to run into some problem with their trolling motor, whatever it might be. Tell us a little bit about your service hours and what kind of priority you might put, what kind of capabilities you have to help these anglers if they run into boat problems when they first put into the water.
Yeah, if you're going out on Friday and kind of just getting some stuff ready or scouting the lake out and you run into problems, just get up and see us. We'll do our best to help you get out on the water. We're tournament anglers ourselves, so we understand the importance, and we usually have kind of a understanding the day before that. We're going to try to do our best to jump off of stuff we're doing to help people for the tournament. So just come up and see us. We're usually here till about 5. If we're busy, a lot of times we'll stay open later. So, just come see us and we'll do our best to get you back on the water.
And you have a lot of stock of parts.
Yep.
And you have like 4 or 5 mechanics. So, if you're dead in the water, come to Boatwrx, and there's a lot of opportunity to try and get you back on the water.
We'll do whatever we can.
And tell us a little bit, while the guys are here as well, what kind of boats you might have that they can actually look at, feel, and touch.
Yep.
I know you take trade-ins. I know you might have some used boats here as well as new boats. What's your inventory look like for guys to come take a look at some boats?
Absolutely. We've got some new Caymases that have just arrived. We've got new Bass Cat behind us. It's actually going out for delivery. We've got some really good pre-owned trades. We got a 2021 FXR Skeeter that we just took in, ready to go. So if you're looking for a boat, we got some options, and hey, if you break down, what a better time to trade that boat in.
Right. So. Excellent, Joe. Thank you, and thank you so much for hosting this roundtable series. We really appreciate
a lot of really good feedback on it. So I had people calling in and saying, hey, we love seeing the Hibdens, and people are really enjoying it. We've had a lot of messages and calls about it.
It's been a lot of fun to do it, and it's been phenomenal information that around the country, whether it's a Big Bass Bash or varying tournaments, it's very rare to have panels like these to be able to help the anglers out. I want to jump real quick before we get into the fishing to talk to Bassing Rob. Bassing Rob runs the Fish Fishing store right there by PB2. There's 3 Fitz Fishing locations here. There's the traditional location kind of across from Hy-Vee up there on Mace Road. You've got Rob's Fitz Fishing right there by PB2. and then there's a store in Camdenton as well. So Rob, ahead of the Big Bass Bash, thinking about the Big Bass Bash, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, tell us a little bit about what your hours are going to be. How can you register at the Fitz fishing locations, get t-shirts, and what are you guys stocked up on baits?
Right. So
that's a lot of questions.
Sorry, yeah, I know that is a lot. I'm trying to think of which one I want to go after first, but starting Thursday is when it all kind of breaks loose, is what I like to say. You know, it's like a holiday. You know, when the Big Bass Bash is in town, we're super busy, but it's super fun. You know, you're selling a lot of stuff, you're talking to the people. We will have shirts. I will have shirts first thing tomorrow. I would say about 10 o'clock at my store. Ben has them already. So for all you, I mean, people go crazy about these freaking shirts.
About 10 o'clock tomorrow, meaning
fist fights go down over these shirts.
10 o'clock tomorrow, meaning Wednesday, right?
10 o'clock tomorrow, meaning Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yes. The Mother Hub already has them. If you're out early, if this video gets up there early enough, go there first thing. But we have shirts. You can register at Fitz's. My hours starting around that Thursday mark. Tomorrow I'll be open until 5, like I traditionally do, unless people keep coming. You really start seeing the bash wave of people come that Thursday evening into Friday. So those days I stay open till they quit coming. We really do. Friday, no doubt, I'll be there till at least 8 or 8:30. Thursday, probably about the same, depending on the volume of people. So if you're running in jeopardy and you're a little bit behind and you're around 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, maybe even on Thursday, just call the store locations. You can Google them pretty simply. So call me and see how long I'll stay. There's times I'll wait around for people if they want me to. So shirts, registration, absolutely. And then baits, we've got a lot of orders in. I mean, I want to say we're fully stocked, but you just feel like in the bash you can never have enough. You know, I've ordered and ordered and ordered, and in this day and age, as these guys all know, it's been hard to get stuff. You know, what used to take 5 to 7 business days now is to be determined when you get your stuff. So it's been hard to play that card, but I really think me and Ben has done a really well job of getting us prepared. I was stressing a little bit last week. I called Ben like, we need this, we need that, and you know, he told me to calm down, which he was right. You know, I calmed down. So I think we're fully stocked. We're well prepared. Visit any of our locations. All 3 of us. You know, we all carry very similar stuff. We do have some different rods and stuff at every location, so we can cover all the aspects of rods. Any questions? Just feel free to call. That's all I got to say.
And Robbie, you might have just mentioned this, but so Friday evening, the day before the bash, that might be a time where somebody's wanting that, oh my God, how late are they going to be open, because all of a sudden I found this spinner bait and I got to get another one. And what about Saturday after the bash?
So Friday for sure, like I said just a second ago, I'll be open until they quit coming. Right. And if you feel like you're going to be too late, just call me and talk with me. I'd be more than happy to stick around as long as it's not going to be midnight. Which I will stay open till midnight if they keep coming. But Saturday, we always have a mad rush. You know, everybody starts pulling off the water around 3:30ish, and we will be open once again until they quit coming. You know, from 3 till to be determined. I like to put a cap around 8 o'clock kind of on Friday and Saturday, but I'm not scared to stay there till 9, you know, or 9:30 or so. So it's really about the volume. I kind of got to wing it, if you would, but a guaranteed time I'd say to be safe is 8 o'clock both nights, Friday and Saturday. Great. To be safe. Anything after that, give me a call.
Thank you so much, Rob, and for all of those watching, if you want a free hot dog, starting about noontime on Friday, I will have a team with a tent giving away free hot dogs, soft drinks, cookies, and chips at Fitz's number 1 by Hy-Vee. I will personally be at Rob's Fitz's there by PB2, and I have a team with the big Bass and Bob tent at PB2 as well, with some hot dogs. And get there early, because while we go through about, at PB2, we go through about 300 or 400 hot dogs. They go fast, but we'll be there about noontime. So come on by and see us and say hi, and we'll be happy to share whatever information we can with you. But come by and see us at the Fitz locations.
It's like a holiday.
And at PB2.
I just want to add that.
It's like a holiday.
When you come to Fitz's, the eve of the bash, it's an experience. Usually I got, like the Hibdens or somebody. I think you guys are leaving for. Unfortunately, I won't have them this year. We always have a local pro.
There's some pros
a guy
always.
like Dion or Marcus or somebody. Somebody will be in the store helping our customers and coaching them kind of through and answering questions. So it's really neat to have those guys there for that, and it's neat to have Bob out front with hot dog.
I appreciate it,
It
Rob.
really is.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. And thank you again, Joe, for having Boatwrx, host these panel discussions. I think a lot of the anglers, they love it, gives them some clue as to what to do. So let's talk about fishing. What's very interesting, like I said, this is the 5th in a series of 5 weeks. And we knew that conditions were going to continue to change. Fish were going to continue to move. Here we are the week before the bash, or the week of the bash, and we just had a cold front come through. It's come through for the last few days. And and then this weekend, it's hard, we're going to have a little bit of a warming trend. But at the same time, what's going to be really consistent on Saturday and Sunday that we can see in the forecast now is big wind. We're going to have a little bit of sunshine. We're going to have a little bit of sunshine on Saturday, and then Sunday's supposed to be rainy. So rainy, windy, but warmer weather conditions, a little bit warmer weather temperatures. Dion, what do you make of all that, if anything?
Well, I said from the first week I came that they wouldn't spawn till May.
Right.
And by golly, with the way the weather's been the last couple weeks and up and down in the cold weather, I'm still a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
Now, a week ago, before the last Tuesday nighter, I did see a big one standing around, like it was thinking about getting on bed. But I'm pretty sure after the cool nights this week that that's probably not happening. Which tickles me to death.
What do they do, Dion? Do they just pull off the bank a little bit, or do they?
They just mainly pull back a little ways, get out there in that 5-6 foot of water and just suspend. A lot of times. This is one of the only times of the year when they're not big on eating. They got other things on their mind.
Right.
And for the most part, like I say, to say they're just going to be eating the paint off stuff, really, I don't think it's going to be that way. Now, if it would have stayed warm from last week on, then I think, it probably would have been one of the best bashes, possibly they've ever had, just because of what these guys been weighing in. They've been weighing lots of 20-pound plus stringers, and I watched a solo pro the other day, and I bet you there was a dozen over 6 weighed in that one tournament, and a couple of 7s, So the big one's been biting pretty good, but like I say, when fish move up shallow and then they get backed off a little ways, they tend to suspend. And
they just kind of shut their mouth, or just hard to catch them?
It makes them hard to catch, just because you're fishing below them most of the time, Right. When it's only 5 or 6 foot deep where the bulk of the fish population is at, and then they pull up off the bottom, your lure selection normally gets below them, and they try to feed up. When they suspend off the bottom, they look up most of the time, and that's where they feed, or that's my opinion of it. That's the way, I feel like it happens. And like I said, there's nothing tougher than a shallow water fish that suspends, because you don't have enough water to get your baits to work right, and stuff. If I throwed it would probably be, for me, especially with the way that wind's going to blow, it's going to be a spinnerbait a lot, okay? Just because that's good anytime in the springtime. But if it's going to blow like it has been blowing over the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to blow hard.
Right.
It doesn't seem like there's any mild breeze.
No, we're talking 10 to 15 mile-per-hour winds this weekend.
Yeah, well, that just makes it a little bit easier on a spinnerbait, you know. Now you're gonna have to vary your speed.
And depth also, because
Oh,
the
yeah, you're gonna
spinnerbait,
have
at
to
least
vary
you
your
can
speed,
control
your
your depth. Yeah.
Blade sizes, you know, you want it to stay above him, you know, for the most part. You know, and for me, you know, yep, I'm still gonna pitch a jig around some when I get the perfect piece of cover. You know, it's probably, I'm gonna lean away from them square lips a little bit, simply because even those go a little too deep. You know, they go a little too deep for that 5 foot of water. When the fish are in 5 foot of water, then a square lip's perfect. You know, because it goes 2, 3 foot, stuff like that. You know, to get above them in that range, you would have to go to like a 1- or something like that only goes about that deep. You know, you'd have to go to a really, really shallow running crankbait to make that work really good. And they will suspend. You know, if that wind blows really, really hard and it rains all day, they're going to suspend.
Yeah, that'll be
You know.
Sunday. It'll be interesting, you know, just kind of
And
getting.
it don't just have to be the rain either. It
Yeah.
can just be them clouds. Them
Well-
clouds will make them suspend a little bit too, you know.
So today we're Tuesday, guys, and you'll probably see this on Wednesday. Today in the morning we had 32-degree temperatures, and finally the weather temperature got up to close to 60. Through the rest of this week, the air temperature is gonna be rising from the 40s, 50s, and into the 60s. Does that air temperature that's going to be on the rise, even though we're going to have these windy conditions, cloudy conditions, rainy conditions, change anything that you're thinking about, Dion?
Any warming trend is going to help a little bit. Okay, you know, anytime it's on the rise, then it's going to help them a little bit. It's going to help them bite a little bit better. You know, they're so used to cooling down. What was it there for a while? Every Thursday it would snow, and that turned us into a down spin towards the weekend. And some of the weekends it screwed things up a little bit. This is actually going to be on the rise though,
Right.
so fish could actually go ahead and bite pretty good. You know,
Yeah.
you know, or that's my opinion of it. It could happen still.
Yeah.
They're going to be pre-spawn as far as I'm concerned. You know, I don't think
Yes.
there's going to be not very many actually pull up there and spawn. You know, you might go up the river somewhere or go up in the back end of a creek somewhere and find one still standing up there thinking about spawning. But personally, I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to need to fish pre-spawn. To me, that's going to be a jerkbait or spinnerbait, that type of stuff. You know, because like I say, I think they're going to suspend, especially if that wind blows hard, and especially if you get rain on Sunday. You know,
Yeah.
they're gonna be up off the bottom a little bit. Spinnerbait, you know, a spinnerbait's a great way to do it. Vary your speed. You know, crank it to where you can just barely see it some, and then let it on down in there another 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah.
The whole thing of it is the bulk of the fish are in 6 foot or less. 99%
And
of
not
fish.
necessarily just in the back of the creeks.
No, that's everywhere
Could be
on the pond.
everywhere.
Everywhere on the pond, those fish have already moved up shallow.
Got it.
Okay, they're, you know, yep, you might get a guy that catches one on a deep running crankbait.
Right.
You might get a guy that catches one on a Carolina rig at a 10, 12 foot. That's kind of an accident. Okay, the bulk of the bass have already made their little move up shallow. And they're going to be in, like I say, 5, 6 foot of water is where they're going to be.
Got it.
So, you know, now you just have to focus on that. As far as I'm concerned, that's where you're going to have to focus your fishing.
Got it.
You know, if they happen to suspend, you're going to have to be within 2 or 3 feet of the surface with whatever your lure selection is.
And above them.
Yeah, and above that, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, guys have had those swim baits and stuff like that. They've been talking about them a little bit. I don't know why Joe brought that up last week, but he did. And that's an extremely good way to catch one, you know, every now and then. The only problem with that's not a bait you get a lot of bites on.
Right.
At all. That's a bait where a lot of fish follow it. And with the situation the way it's going to be, yeah, you might have some chase up after it, you know. But if it's cloudy and windy, you ain't going to see him.
Yeah.
You're not visually going to be able to, unless he's right here at your feet, you know.
Yeah.
And by that time, it's too late. You really don't know where he's standing, you know. If I can see him out there from here to the wall, 20, 30 feet away, come up behind my bait, then I know what he's standing on, and I could probably focus in on that piece of cover and make that fish bite at some point in time, you know.
Good stuff, Dion. Let me ask Peyton a question here. So that's really great input. So Peyton, what are your kind of go-to baits? And considering the conditions, what's your go-to kind of baits for pre-spawn, as Dion said? And what are your kind of go-to areas of the lake, if you will, or certain kind of structure or anything like that?
I think with how the weather is going to play out, I would stay more so down the lake. Just cloudy, windy, rainy. There's going to be fish caught up the lake also. But like he said, a spinner bait, jerk bait, a jig. You know, Saturday I think it's supposed to be super windy, so I would sling a jerk bait and a spinner bait a lot. Where Sunday it's going to be more rainy with a little bit of wind.
Yeah.
Then you could slow down and throw a jig or a big swim bait, a wake bait, something a little bit more subtle, but you can still see it, focus on it. That big swim bait, like he's talking about, it's really easy to lose confidence in it really quick.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you see them and you get all excited, but you might catch 1 out of 10 that you thought you saw.
Yeah.
So
when you say fish a jig, which I love fishing the jig. I love throwing a Carolina rig. I'm a bottom bait kind of guy, unless something else is really happening. When you have big wind, are you trying to hide from the wind? Like, you know, because, you know, with these big hills we have around here, Lake of the Ozarks, you know, there's areas you can go actually get out of the wind. Does that make sense? Or?
Oh yeah, you could go throw a jig Saturday too in the wind.
Yeah.
It's more you're fighting where you can and can't go. You'll have this pocket that I got 2 6-pounders out of there last week, but the wind's blowing in it, so it's more of a headache for you to fish that properly.
Do you guys up the weight of the jig, or is there some way to fish half ounce or 3/8 ounce finesse jig when you got heavy wind and be able to feel the bait, kind of keep the bow out of your line and that type of thing? Does that make sense?
You can absolutely up the weight of it, but then all again, like what Dad was just saying there, you know, if they're suspended, a lot of times
you're underneath them.
If you are catching them on a jig, even suspended, if it zips right past them, they might not follow it to the bottom. Where if it kind of flows past them gently, they might follow it down and pick it up.
Yeah.
But if they're relating to a crawdad or something like that, they're probably going to eat a jig regardless.
Right.
You know, and that if you're throwing a wiggle ward or whatever, you know, if they're going to eat a crawdad that day, they're going to eat a crawdad any day.
Yeah.
You know, it won't be so hard to pick them out with that. You'll be able to say, hey, they're eating a jig a little bit, but you'll know that in the first little bit most of the time.
I'll come back to you.
I just move. I mean, if you have to, I mean, that's the thing, and we've all said that, you know, through the last 5 weeks, we've all said that. Lake of the Ozarks is so good everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, just because you caught one there last week, okay, there's one in that cove, but there's also one right there that you can slip over there and get out of the wind, and there's just as good a chance of one being over there than over here on the windy side. You know, it's. I think people get really confused, and they confuse themselves thinking that they're only in one area. No, they're not. They're everywhere on this pond. I mean, I fish all over the world. I have been everywhere that this planet has to offer. Some of them the best places supposedly on the planet. And there's no place like this. There's no place that's got more 3-pounders than here. And no place that's got probably more 5-pounders than here. And you just got to keep that in mind when you're out there practicing and fishing. You know, they might not be biting the best where you're at, but they could be biting over there by that chair right there, you know, 50 feet away, you know, and that's what you have to keep in mind. There's lots and lots of bass.
Right.
For a place to have a big bass bash, I don't know where you would go that would be any better. This one's got more shoreline. I mean, more shoreline in the state of California.
Yeah.
Okay, and more bass, a better fish population. We've discussed that, why it has a great fish population. It's always had a great fish population. Just move around. Don't be afraid to just move wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably harder on people to practice on Lake of the Ozarks for that very reason.
Yeah.
There's fish everywhere.
And fish
You
are,
know?
in that practice and in fishing the tournament, regardless of wind, obviously you've given us some great input as it relates to the temperature and wind and what those fish might do in terms of pulling off the bank, maybe be suspended, but still fish your confidence baits, regardless of whether it's a bottom bait or whether it's a spinner bait or a stick bait.
Sure. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, I catch a lot of great big ones on a spinner bait.
Yeah.
Period. And I do that from February to June. And sometimes even on up into June.
Yeah.
You can catch them on a spinner bait. It's just one of those baits that, how many fish have you caught in the last 2 weeks that didn't have a gizzard shad sticking out of their throat?
Right, yeah.
They're still eating them. And I don't care if you catch them on jerkbait, don't care if you catch them on jig. 90% of them's got a gizzard sticking out of his
Right,
throat.
yeah.
Well, a spinnerbait imitates that about as well as anything,
While I still have you there, Dion, I'm gonna ask you something, that you said earlier that concerns me greatly as an angler. Or makes me think. You said these fish, the big fish in particular, have one thing on their mind, that's spawning, which says they ain't thinking about eating. But there's 5, 6, 7 pounders being caught. It's going to take a 7 pounder plus to win this tournament this weekend. So are there certain bass that they may be thinking about spawning, but if you put a bait in front of them, they're just going to eat it, or kind of?
The bulk of them won't spawn for almost another month.
Right.
It's going to be the next full moon. The full moon just went away just
Right,
now.
yeah,
I mean, it's just
yeah.
now going away. So whenever the next full moon rolls around, that's when the big ones are going to spawn the best on Lake of the Ozarks.
Right.
Okay, so it's a long ways away.
So they'll still eat.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
even though spawning's on their mind,
Yes.
they're still going to eat before the spawn.
When I say the spawning's on their mind more so than eating, that's where they're going to be.
Got it.
They're going to be close to spawning areas.
Got
and
it.
they're thinking about spawning areas right
Got
now. To say that they won't eat, no, they're going to eat because they can't not eat for a month.
Right. Got
And trust me, the bigger they get, the females that you're targeting, they know exactly when it's time to spawn.
Yeah.
Okay? They don't do it on according to weather. Not at all. They do it on count of length of the day.
Yeah.
Okay? In May, the days there's so much sunlight in the sky for a certain period of time. That's when they know when to spawn.
Yeah.
The moon has less to do with it than that. Okay? A lot of people don't realize that. Yep, full moon, 3 days either side of the full moon is normally the best time for them to spawn. But if it rolls around and the time of day is just right in May, that's when they're going to spawn. They're going to spawn real close to the same time, almost mid-May, mid to the third week of May, almost every time on Lake of the Ozarks. Okay? The neat thing about it is Table Rock is 1 month ahead of that. It's crazy how, you drive 2 hours south and it's a full month ahead of time down there.
Wow.
I mean, they're spawning down there probably now.
Yeah.
With this last full moon and everything, they did it.
Well, thank you for clarifying that for me, because I was like, oh my goodness.
Well, they spawn
if they're not thinking about eating, how are these guys gonna catch some 7 pounders?
They're going to be hanging around spawning type areas. That's
Got
where
it.
they're headed to right now.
Got it.
They're headed to spawning type areas.
Yeah.
Now, can you catch one on a bluff wall? Absolutely. You can catch one anywhere on Lake of the Ozarks.
I love it.
Trust me, you can catch one wherever you want to go fishing for one.
I'll get it.
But the bulk of those big ones are within weeks of getting to a spawning type place.
Got it. Perfect. Robbie?
Joe McBride told me the other day he caught some in a place like that.
Well, that's because he listens to you.
Well, but he went fishing the other day, and he felt like he caught some in a spawning type area.
Yeah.
Big males.
They're getting there. Rob, tell us, what are your thoughts? So with it, so like I said, we've got a little bit more clarity right now in the weather. Like I said, the two main things that I can pull out from the weather is the next several days. The air temperature is going to be warming a little bit. It's not like some radical, thing. The big thing is we're going to have some big wind on both days.
Right. Well, I'm still soaking in what Dion just said. I can sit here and listen to Uncle Dion, I call him. I mean, I could just keep listening to that. I mean, that's top class knowledge right there from one of the best that's ever done it. So you guys need to rewind that and watch that again, because I know I'm going to. But with what we got going on here, I mean, these two guys already hit it right on the head. I mean, you're going to have a lot of fish movement, and there's definitely the spawn on the mind. But with the conditions that we're going to have, windy and stuff like that, the first thing I think about is moving. I'm a mover this time of year, cover as much water as I can, throw moving baits, because in my eyes, they are going to feed up for the spawn. They know it's nearing. They have that internal clock, and they just start, like Dion said, gizzard shad hanging out of their mouth. You see the tail this big. So I'm going to chase the wind. I'm going to chase the gravel, the transitions. I say that, but after listening to Dion, he's so right. You could catch one anywhere on Lake of the Ozarks. The bluff wall, you can go chase wind that's blowing into a bluff wall, but me as a fisherman this time of year, I'm going to chase the transition from, your 45-degree banks, your chunkier rock, to where it turns to gravel. And I'm going to focus on the 50 yards before that transition and the 50 yards after. So you're going from a steeper bank, into the transition into flat, and I'm gonna do that with moving baits. Like he said, a spinner bait. I will sell a gazillion spinner baits this week. That fits. It always happens this time of year. We always do. But I look for a lot of fish, and there are always a lot of fish waiting on it. But I look for even that much more probably waiting on a spinner bait with the condition. And everybody knows I love throwing the Alabama rig too. I mean,
I was going to ask you about the Alabama rig.
Absolutely be throwing my Alabama rig with 3.8 Kitex, maybe even step it up to 4.3 Kitex, which I got a lot of at the shop. But chasing that big wind, chasing these transition banks where they're going, there's going to be fish in that stage that are still sitting, kind of suspended off them 45, and they're not going to be far from that gravel because they know. And there's going to be some that are already in that gravel area, maybe in a 5-foot brush pile, off a gravel flat, right, or off the transition. The fish we caught a couple weeks ago, Ben and myself, they were all shallow. I mean, but we were on a warming trip. And it was getting warm, so we're like, I know as a fisherman that the bank is warming up faster than what they're at now. They want to be comfortable, and they also want to be around the bait. So, chase the wind. The wind blows the bait in there. The shallow water warms up fastest. And it was a recipe. I mean, this time of year, they want to get, Dion hit it right on the head. Like I said, keep watching what this man just said. 5 foot to 6 foot. I mean, you throw it at the bank, you bring it out. I would say in the early morning, in the low light, fish it whatever you're fishing, fish it all the way back to the boat. But if we do
that's Payton's deal.
If we do get big red up in the sky at some point, which this is Missouri now, they say that we're going to get overcast and wind.
You never know.
I mean, like Dion said, it could be snowing or it could be bluebird skies and no wind whatsoever. You just never know. If we do get the warmth of the sun in the afternoon, I really, really, really focus on it. I'm going to be focusing on the bank no matter what, but in that later afternoon stage, if we get the sun out, I'm focused on the bank, and halfway back to the boat, I'm damn near ready to make my next cap.
Robbie,
cover water, cover water, cover water. That's
an A-rig to most guys,
it's a big spinner
that would
bait.
be like a spinner bait for me.
That's exactly right. I always call it a big spinner bait.
You're working that depth range is what you're doing.
I call it a big spinner bait or a big swim bait. Guys always, I hate it. I hate doing this. I'm like, well, you probably never caught one on it. I'll go show you a day one of these times where they're biting the tar off it and ask you at the end of the day, did you have fun?
Right.
Because damn right they had fun.
Robbie, when
it is the way they bite a swim bait is phenomenal. I just love it. I'm addicted to it.
Robbie, when you're fishing, when you're thinking about fishing a spinner bait in the Big Bass Bash, and or an A-rig. And you mentioned about the rock transitions and all that. I think I recall when you guys caught 25 pounds back to back a few weeks ago on the A-rig. You were fishing close to main lake points, right?
Yeah, in some situations.
Does that matter? I mean, where in a creek, or,
This is
or
gonna
like
go
Dion
right
said,
back to what Dion
does it
said. I see
matter?
where you're going, but there's not a bad place to throw your cricket.
Got it.
There's not a bad place on Lake of the Ozarks. You know, that week there was a lot of current being run through the wake at an abnormal time, you know, and I think them fish would have been there anyway, but they were just in there better.
Right.
And they were on the shoulders of points and stuff like that. And that'll still be a good,
Yeah.
great way to fish. You can't rule out the main lake ever on Lake of the Ozarks.
Right.
You could catch just an absolute giant, beautiful fish out there on the main lake that's probably never even seen a bait before.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, yes, points is a great place to start, but it doesn't have to be the main lake. It
Right.
could be a quarter into a creek. It could be halfway back into a creek. It could be all the way back into a creek. There's always points. We got these big coves that have all these little roundhouse, you know, from steep and chunky to flat and gravel.
Yeah.
Fish them all, especially if you're playing the wind and throwing a moving bait. Now, I'll go back to what these guys were talking about, jig fishing as well. I am not scared to throw a jig in the big wind, especially at a good target, maybe even a history target.
Like a brush pile or something like that?
Well,
or
no, I'm
rock
talking about
pile,
boat
ledge?
docks. We have
boat
a
docks.
gazillion brush piles in my
Right.
mind on this lake, and they're boat docks.
Yeah.
I mean, they spawn around them, they spawn underneath them, they use them to stage the spawn. They know they're going to spawn right behind it. They might sit there on a windy day, you know, out in front of the dock they're going to spawn behind in ambush shad.
Yeah.
But the ones that might be a little further along ahead, a little tougher to maybe catch, I am never scared to pitch a brush hog. I love a brush hog. It's a big fish bait. We're talking about the big bass patch. You know, and a brush hog on this lake is a staple, and it sounds so almost cliche, but Texas rig you a brush hog, have you a Texas rig bait or a jig? Have you one of those two laying on your deck along with your moving baits, right?
Dennis Beer Horse has won a lot of tournaments on a big old brush
This
hog.
man's won a lot of tournaments on a jig. It's in my mind, you know, if it's a fish that's ready to eat something, my theory is it's going to eat that jig or eat that brush hog most
Right.
likely
Yeah.
if it's on the back corner of that dock. You know,
Right.
so make sure if you're not doing that great on moving baits, if you're catching smaller ones or something, don't be scared to pick up a flipping stick and pitch the back corners of some of these boat docks that we got on Lake of the Ozarks. You know, and I hate to say a certain situation type boat dock because of what Dion said. You
Yeah.
can go pitching behind a 25-foot dock, you know, the front of it's in 25, go pitch the back of it and catch Nadine.
Yeah.
You know, or you could go to the very back of that cove and pitch the last one and catch Nadine. So that's one thing I will say that is very valuable to have laying on your deck is something to pitch and flip around these boat docks.
Robbie, I want to ask you one last question. We'll come back around to all of you, but kind of to Dion's point, you know, about, you know, perhaps suspended fish or who knows, throwing a spinner bait,
Yeah.
throwing an A-rig. How are you going to test that out in terms of water column? Are you going to throw it out there, let it sink to the
good
bottom
question.
and drag the bottom? Are you going to throw it out there and kind of, you know, wake
That's a
it?
good-
I mean,
that's a good question, Dad, and I personally think on any given Sunday, you gotta find the right cadence. I
Right.
call it a cadence. You know, one day they might want it spat up, one day they might want it on the bottom. Just focus on, try to remember how you caught that last fish on the spinner bait, on the A-rig. Was I slow rolling it? Did I let it go? Am I not getting any bites, just reeling it straight back in, not grinding any rocks? Should I let it sink? You know, you really, I have no great answer for that. I wish I could tell everybody exactly.
you just got to
how.
play with it, I guess.
You gotta play with it. It's just like stick bait fishing. Do
Yeah.
I want a slow fall? Do I want it pause? Do I want it? It's a cadence to a bait. It almost you could relate to it as jig fishing too. What's the sinker rate? What's my jig head? Is this too heavy? Let's go with the lighter one. Trial and error.
Right.
And then once you catch a good quality fish, I want to say that you know, they say it's a great pattern lake for stuff like this, what I'm about to say, but I really do think there's some truth to that. Once you catch a really good quality fish, you know, a 3 3/4, 4 pound, maybe 5 pound fish, man, really remember what you were doing when that one bit.
Yeah.
You know, because them big fish on this lake, they can get patternable like that. I mean, there is accidents and stuff like that, you know.
Right.
But just pay attention to what you were doing
Yeah.
when you caught a good fish.
Yeah.
Figure out the cadence. If this one's not working, let it go to the bottom, grind the rocks. You know, if that's not working, speed it up.
Got it.
If that's not working, pick a different bait.
All right. Good stuff,
Yeah.
Robbie. I'll be come
They're
back to
not
you, but
accidents when they're big.
yeah, right. I
There's
hear
no
you.
accident with a dominant bass on your lake wherever you live, whether that be a 4 pounder, whether that be a 5 pounder. Here, you accidentally catch a 4.5 to 5 pounder, that one is telling you the truth.
Yeah.
Every bass in that area is doing the same thing,
Yeah.
you know, because they get that big and they're smart, you know, they
Yeah.
know.
That's good stuff. Steve, you're a spinnerbait expert.
Well, I like to fish spinnerbait.
But
jigs,
what are your thoughts about
like
the
that.
conditions and all that with the Big Bass Bash? And what are
It's
your
gonna
thoughts
really-
about?
Wednesday's gonna dictate what's gonna happen. What if we get a bunch of rain Wednesday like that's
We are
predicted?
tomorrow.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna change everything and,
What will it change?
well, the lake level. I mean, there's places in this lake that haven't been fished because you can't get a boat in.
Yeah.
And, you know, nobody's really said anything about that, but once that lake, you know, you need to know where you can get in certain levels, okay? And there's creeks that you can get in certain levels that will open up if the water comes up to that haven't been fished at all, and them fish will bite, you know, they're gonna bite, they haven't seen the lures, and you're gonna do well there. And, that's probably all I really need to say about that.
Well, and the forecast there is forecast. So, you know, the Big Bass Bash is on Saturday. So when you guys are listening or watching this, we're sitting here tonight on Tuesday night. Wednesday and Thursday, there is a forecast of rain. Friday, none forecasted. Saturday, none forecasted. Sunday, rain again. So, yeah, so 2 days before the Big Bass Bash, Wednesday and Thursday,
Right.
before practice day, if you will, that we're
I
gonna
got
have a lot of
places
rain.
that I go in on certain lake levels that I can only get in them lake levels. And I do that to get away from the pressure. Now, I might start where everybody else is.
Are you saying like super shallow stuff that maybe you
Well-
can't get to right now, or what?
Go across the flat that's super shallow, and then it'll be deep way in the back, just
Okay.
like all creeks are.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? But you gotta pay the price to get there. So if the water's high enough, you can get there without like tearing out the bottom of your boat.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So, or if you had a specialized boat that you could get in there. So-
Right.
But that right there,
Are you talking about river or creeks or just?
you can have that down
Anyway.
lake, you can have that up lake, so.
Yeah.
But there's certain places you can get in certain levels and
Right.
stuff like that where fish haven't been messed with yet, so. After about a few hours Saturday, I'd be going to places like that right there. And then your confidence soars because you're not going behind this guy or that guy, and you can slow down, fish like you normally would, and just pick stuff apart. You know, it
Give me
makes-
some example of what. So I'm trying to envision that in my mind, what you're saying. Again, keep in mind I'm the average fisherman, right? Or maybe less. So I'm trying to envision that in my mind. What depth of water is your boat in, and are you all the way then in the back of kind of what was shallow flats that maybe haven't had any water on them? Will the fish move into that shallower water even though it's fresh water? Blah, blah, blah,
They're
blah,
back
blah.
there anyhow. They're there anyhow.
Yeah.
You just
Well,
can't,
if there's been no water there, they're not there.
right. You just can't get across that flat to get there until the water gets up.
Got it.
So I'm talking about going there, blasting mud in there and getting back in them places and fishing in places
Got
that
it.
haven't been messed with. And really the only problem when you get in there is you gotta run off, I don't know how many little ones before you get in front of the big one, cause
Yeah.
everything's aggressive.
Right.
So, but that's what I would do after.
So it's a flat, it's maybe a little bit of a deeper spot
Yeah,
that's close
I
to,
mean,
close
all
to a
creeks
flat.
All creeks have flats and then they have holes in them.
Right.
So And basically, I'm fishing holes, but I'm going across that first rifle.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That you normally couldn't get past at that lake level. So there's some that you can't get past at till 60-55, there's some at 657.
Right.
And then there's some that it better be up all the way.
Yeah.
You know? So, and then you get back there, you might get back there, there might be a 10-foot hole back there. There might be completely clear water back there because there's a spring back there or something like that. But that makes a big difference. And then you're fishing by yourself, and
Yeah.
there's big fish back there because they eat, you know, suckers and the big gizzard shad that are back there and stuff. And they just don't have the fishing pressure, so they eat a bait a whole lot different. So it's a big difference. You put it in front of a 6-pounder that hasn't seen a lure than a 6-pounder that's been caught before maybe,
Right.
or seen 50 million baits and that's gotten pretty shy by this time of year. So when I am on the water with everybody else in places where there's a lot of fishing pressure, in the morning I would throw that big gizzard shad, that bull shad bait that looks like a real dull looking gizzard shad.
Yeah.
I'd throw that quite a bit, and then once that's over, I'm throwing my traditional baits, my spinner bait, my flipping jig, and my square bill back in that hole. So just trying to get away from everybody else.
And I know you're exceptional with a spinnerbait. I've been in a boat with you before where you just knocked the snot out of them with a spinnerbait. You're good with that. What size spinnerbait and what dictates your color of spinnerbait for this time of year and coming up into the big bass
You can
bags?
use a chartreuse white spinnerbait darn near all over the place, you know. I use a chartreuse white probably 75% of the time. I use a white and I use a chartreuse a lot too. Use
Painted
a little,
blades or like?
I like to take that leading bit blade and I'll paint it a little bit, put a little white on it, put a little red on it, depending on the water conditions. But the spinnerbait I've been fishing since I've been a teenager. And I make that homemade blade and I can feel a fish get around that bait. You know, when I reel it, I know just how it thumps. So if I feel any kind of disturbance, I'll speed it up and kill it.
What kind of blades?
Speed it up and kill it.
Even
That
though it's a
way-
custom, what kind of blades are they?
I just use a number 7 Indiana a lot of times. So with a lead Colorado, and I just make up I got my own heads and wires and I make them up like that. It's kind of similar to like the Hank Barker one that you've seen back in like the 80s and early
Yeah.
90s and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I just made kind of my own version of it. But I literally been fishing the same spinnerbait since I've been a teenager. So I got real tuned into that bait.
And confident.
Do you feel like
That's a big deal
Right,
with this
right.
deal where
do you feel like these conditions are going to be conducive to? You mentioned a creature bait also. Do you feel like these conditions are going to be conducive to a spinnerbait as much as anything else?
Oh, well, most definitely. So, I mean, and he was talking about the spinnerbait pipe. It's awesome. It's like hooking a battery, you know, and not a lithium either. So, I mean, it's like all of a sudden, boom, you got a lot of weight there. It is about as fun as it gets. So, of course, flipping a big jig's awful lot of fun too. So, and that's what I do. I fish my style, how I have fun, and let the chips fall where they may. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what pretty much everybody, if you do something you're confident and you're having fun with, you're gonna do it 100% instead of 50%.
Right.
It's even, you know, as much as the big swim bait comes into play, you know, Dion's right about the fact that it is hard to throw that with confidence. But then again, $100,000 sits well in the bank, so
Right.
gain a little confidence a little bit on that right
Right.
there, because they do work in that stuff, so.
Good stuff, Steve. And
Those
Joe?
spots like he's talking about
Yeah.
are literally everywhere. You just don't look for them. I mean, every creek, the Niangua, the Glaze, both Nianguas, the Gravois, for the most part, almost all of them have those same flat areas. And all the creeks up the river have those flat areas towards the back end of it. And then they have creeks that take off from them. And a lot of times that's where you just get a few feet deeper, you know. But there's like, yeah, don't just think he's talking about a very specific spot. No, 'cause
Right, no,
they're-
no, I
They're
get it.
all over
Yeah,
the
yeah.
lake.
Yeah, there's probably
You know.
a couple dozen. of them.
Again, I was just trying to
Yeah.
picture that in my mind, you know, because I'm on the water a lot. And yes, I know there's flats, like you said, where you just can't get to a
Right.
certain
Right.
bunch of water, but then, like Dion just said, it might drop off 2 to 3 feet.
Yeah,
And that's, you know,
it's just for
You
example.
know how, you don't know how deep it is. That little green sunbuck swimming around in there, he knows exactly how deep it is. And he knows when the water gets to that certain stage, okay, I'm going in.
yeah,
And they just, and I've always thought in every bass situation, especially this time of the year, they're looking to move on. They want to move right on up shallow. Wherever they're headed, they want to keep right on going shallow.
yeah.
You know, lakes that have buck bushes, I think they stand and stare at them, waiting for the water to touch them, and then they scoot right on up there to them. They're the same way here, because our lake anymore is low for March, this year, almost all of April, you
Yeah.
know. They're just waiting to move on up,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just a matter of time till they do, you know.
And that water has been coming up. I mean, they suck it down just a little bit. I watch it every single day. Being on the water,
Yep.
I can visually see it. You know,
We used to have to go up in plains and find them areas and stuff, you know, with
Yeah.
Buddy Holly killing plains.
Yeah.
So it was always an adventure looking at that stuff when you go around the country, flying stuff, looking at, you know, watercolor and hidden backwaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now everybody's got Google Earth, it's just too easy.
well, yeah, but still, I think there's nothing like experience on the water.
Right.
I mean, yes, there's Google Earth. I mean, you may not see this flat and that drop off, and a lot of times you just got to be
Gotta
out there.
learn the hard way
You
sometimes.
just got to kind of be out there and experience it.
Yeah, it's when we fish big river systems, a lot of
Yeah.
times you drive by, all you see is a trickle coming out the,
Yeah.
like the side of the shoreline, but behind that trickle is a lake.
Look for
So
those
you
little
always gotta
signs. Yeah.
Just look and make sure, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know how many times I parked on the side of a river and walked over to take a look and see if there's a little water back there,
That's awesome.
you know, to force my way into a spot like that,
Yeah.
so, you know.
Joe, Dion mentioned that you had a good day on the water based on some of his thoughts, ideas, and tips. Tell us a little bit about that.
We were talking at the open house down in Springfield Friday, and you know, we had the full moon that was, you know, latter part of last week. I think it was last Thursday.
Yeah.
I was out. What, I can't remember if it was him or all four of these guys have said, if you're not catching fish, move. And I probably fished 4 or 5 hours that day and really didn't catch anything. And then kind of figured out, okay, they're doing this, I got a bite here, and then I did the same thing over there and got a bite there. And then pretty quick, I caught 4 real good fish and one fish close to 6 pounds. And that day, they happened to start going back into the pockets a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I went out yesterday, and it was completely different. So I don't know if that was a moon phase thing. I don't know. And a lot of those fish were big males. They were,
Yeah.
I mean, this long, but they weren't, you know, they weren't the stocky, thick, full of egg fish.
Right.
I'd assume they were probably 4.5 pound males. I mean, they were good fish.
How are you catching them?
Moving baits, spinner bait, swim bait, big shad baits.
What part of the lake?
Just in this glazed to mid-lake area.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure you could have done that for 20 miles each direction and had some of the same results.
Any kind of rock or points or secondary points or wind, anything that was consistent with catching those bigger fish?
They seem to want to be on a little bit steeper grade bank, and I think a lot of that's just due to the lake level.
Right.
Whether it was a pocket or a bank going to a pocket, you know, you needed to have some good depth. And maybe not necessarily the true creek channel, but you needed to have, you know, they weren't on a pea gravel flat,
Right.
for sure. So I'd say keep moving around, because yesterday you could have fished the pockets till you were blue in the face. I don't know if you'd caught fish,
Right.
but we had that.
I did and I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. But they seemed like yesterday they were out off the bank, suspended a little bit more. is
Kind of
I-
what Dion was saying, maybe that cold front,
Yeah.
the cold front stuff. I mean, we had 32-degree nights. I know I got my butt kicked the last couple of days, and I ran all over the damn place. And I
Yeah.
still got it. And at the end of the day, I was telling Dion and Peyton that At the end of the day today, I've been wanting to fish in the backs of creeks and all that kind of stuff. About the last 30 minutes, I said, I'm just gonna try something different. Had a big old spinnerbait on. I was out there on those creek channel, on main lake banks, where you got a deep spot on the main lake where we catch them in the next month or two with a swim bait. I threw that big old spinnerbait out there, let it get to the freaking bottom just like I would a big swim bait in June. Slow rolled it on the bottom and there's one. Boom, there's one. Boom, there's one. Didn't catch any real big ones, but I can tell you what.
They live everywhere.
They live everywhere. Like you said, you just got to keep an open mind and check it out. So let me just run right back around real quick, guys. We're pretty close to the end here. There's going to be guys. We've talked about this in the last few weeks. I mean, here we are, 0 minus 4 days. It's getting real. We've got these weather conditions, which are going to be changing as we've talked about. There's going to be guys wanting to come here they'll be here, like Robbie said, on Thursday and Friday. They're wanting to get out on the water, do some pre-fishing. We all have opinions about pre-fishing for the Big Bass Bash, but at the same time, these guys are coming here to have some fun and fish for a few days with their buddies and all that. What would be your recommendations for preparation and pre-fishing on Thursday and Friday before the tournament?
Me first?
That's you, Dion.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna hit a bunch of different stuff probably. If I had a couple days to practice, I'm not gonna be any different here on Lake of the Ozarks than I would anywhere else in the country. I'm gonna try some different stuff. I feel like I know where they should be, but just like you talked about your spinnerbait bite here today, okay? I'm gonna try a little bit of different stuff. I'm gonna make sure that I, try a couple of little secondary points, throwing different things at them. I'm still gonna pick up a Carolina rig some, just in case some of those fish are still out there in that 8 to 10 foot range. I wouldn't come down here and just lock in on one thing, because things are going to change also, okay? If you're gonna have big wind, you're gonna have rain, okay? That's a guaranteed deal. It's gonna happen, So, get you a spinnerbait that you feel comfortable with. I throwed one just the other day, and I haven't thrown one hardly at all. That bigger mega bass, that's a pretty cool dang bait. I mean, it's not a deep runner. It's the same bill that a regular 110 does.
Stick bait?
Big stick bait. I throw a big Rapala most of the time because it won't go as deep. It's only about that deep, as the deepest it ever gets. And you got to work your butt off to get it to go that deep. I would have some of that stuff that I would try a little bit. Pick it up, throw it a little bit. If you accidentally get a bite on it, good. But that's what could happen during your tournament day. But don't be afraid to move around. Go to the ass end of a creek, just like what those guys are. By the way, I'm probably, next to Rob, the only guy up here that doesn't fish the river full time. Okay? These other three right here, they fish a lot more than I do. And my other son does too. Lawson does too. Have I ever fished up there? Absolutely. I've been on every square inch of this pond at some point in my life. But I don't know it like they know it, okay? Him talking about them little hidey holes and stuff like that. I've spent more time stuck on a sandbar at the upper end of this lake than anybody. I promise you. And that's because if I see water back there, I'm going to go to it, a lot of times. And sometimes you just don't make it. Right. And don't tell me you ain't had to push off too. Everybody has.
I've been there.
That's how you learn what.
That's right.
That's what I was gonna say. You find out the hard way sometimes.
Well, yeah.
If I was going to spend my 2 days practicing, and a lot of people, will pick an area. Some people are staying down by the Shawnee Bend ramp. Some of them are staying in the Gravois. Some of them stay in the Nangua. Don't worry about going everywhere. Yeah. If you only got 2 days, spend areas. Don't fish the same place twice. just keep moving, but don't get too far from where you're going to spend the bulk of your time, because there's plenty of big ones everywhere on this
That's
lake.
great advice.
And I know that everybody thinks, oh, he's just lying. He don't want to tell everybody. You can ask any professional that lives on Lake of the Ozark, and he's going to give you pretty much the same answer. You know, because they live everywhere. They really do. We got a better fish population than anywhere. Go to where you want to fish. If you got an area where you like to fish, go there, settle down, spend a couple days, try some different things. Just know one thing though, if it gets to raining and it gets blowing real hard, they're going to pull up off the bottom a little bit. And they're going to do it in shallow water. So be thinking about that with your bait selection.
Deon, I can tell you, you're so spot on, and I only say that because I'm a statistics guy, right? So I look at history, and what I can tell you from the Big Bass Bash, the spring Big Bass Bash, over the last several years, it's been a spinnerbait up the river, it's been a brush hog on the lower end, it's been a swamp bug on a Carolina rig, you know, in frickin' Lynn Creek, it's been a big bass way up the Gravois. So you're spot on. They can be caught anywhere, and it's just, you know, playing, you know, with the baits and trying different things. I think that's brilliant advice.
Peyton kind of commented, and so did Rob and everybody. A brush hog's an excellent bait to catch a big one. Okay, just make sure you keep in mind you want it to fall slow too.
Right.
You know, you don't want to just rock it into the bottom. You know. And a brush hog's a very good bait to throw at fish suspended, you know, because it does have a lot of legs and appendages going down, you know. But I bet you there's nobody that's watching this right now has ever thrown it on an 1/8-ounce sinker, a full-size brush hog.
Other than you.
But it works. It will catch one.
Yeah.
And it's nothing more than it just kind of meanders down to the bottom, you know.
Right.
And if you're that much or less, it don't take just a split second for it to get on the bottom.
Kind of like a wacky Cinco.
Yes,
it's just slow.
You know, and I'm a firm believer always in that you're going to get more bigger bites if it floats to the bottom.
Yeah.
If it shoots to the bottom, them big ones a lot of times just, they'll watch it go right by and then they'll just turn right away and keep right on paddling.
Or that big sinker will make them run away.
You know, it just, I've always been lighter. I mean, you know, to catch a big one. You know, if I'm out anywhere in the world and I catch my limit doing something, as soon as I get my 5th one in the boat and I want to catch a big one, first thing I do is change sinkers.
Yeah.
I go to a lighter sinker because I really believe they like that stuff meandering down to the bottom. You know, I don't think they like it just rocketing by them most of the time. And I've always been that way. I fleeced Denny Breyer one time on Kentucky Lake, big time, on a 3-inch jig. You know, he was throwing a 1/2 ounce and a 3/4 most of the time in those buck bushes. Okay, and he caught them. He did. He caught them. I caught them bigger. You know, fishing behind him. You know, and it was because I was pitching a 3/8. And even if you pitch it over a bush or over a log, it still has to float fairly subtle down to the bottom.
Yeah.
And my dad was always that way. Always. He knew them big ones like to see that stuff float to the bottom. You know, they don't like it just going down. They want it to subtly go to the bottom.
Yeah.
And if I'm fishing for a big one, that's one of the first things I do.
Yeah. Good stuff, Deon. Appreciate you, buddy. I'll just ask you one last question. I know we said a big one could be caught from dam to dam. Based on the conditions, what do you feel like the most favorable areas of the lake would be?
Probably from the Glaze to Hurricane Deck.
Cool.
That's where I'd spend the bulk of my time probably.
Got it. Cool.
Unless it's really, really densely clouded, and then I'm going to go down the lake.
Right. Good stuff.
Because there's lots of good shallow stuff down there too. You know, tons of good shallow water on the low end. It's, you know, that's a neat thing about Lake of the Ozarks. Every creek you go into has got shallow, it's got deep. It's got everything you need in almost any creek you pull into.
Deon,
But that's the section of lake that I feel like has had more big ones bite in the last couple or 3 years
right.
as anywhere. And that's, like I say, from the Glaze to, you know, really kind of to the Niagara, you know. Hurricane Deck Bridge, that's a little bitty sliver that, yeah, it's been good this spring some.
Deon, you shared with me some brilliance before we started this this evening, and I'd just like for you to share that with the group as it relates to air temperature, water temperature.
A warming trend, you know, and when I say warming trend, I mean the weather, period. You know, not just wind and stuff like that. A warming trend is when you head up the lake, okay? A cooling trend is when you head down the lake. And when I say up the lake and down the lake, I'm talking from PB2. From PB2 down is where you want to go when the temperature, not water temperature, when the temperature is on the decline, you want to go down. When it's on the rise,
Go up.
you go up.
So going down, going up, go up.
Yep.
That's brilliant, man.
And
It's easy for simple guys like me to remember.
Is that a sure thing? Not always,
Not
but
yet.
guess what? You know, you guys praise me like I know everything. No, I've screwed up many times. You know.
Well, we still praise you.
There's lots and lots of times when I don't catch them just like everybody else.
No, I get
But I have fished this pond. As of right now, yeah, there's a couple of the old timers that's maybe fished as much as me, but not many.
Yeah.
Not many. What's his old name? Old jerkbaiter?
Vernon Jenkins.
Vernon. Vernon may be the only one alive that's still as old as I
I
am.
don't think he's seen much of the square inch like up the lake.
No.
You know, he
Well, Vern's kind of
he kind of
puts the
sticks
dam
it.
down.
Yeah,
He's
he is.
right down there.
But he's done it a long time too.
Peyton, same as your dad, Dion, thank you. Feel free to collaborate on any of this discussion. So Dion, you're not done yet, but
What's the reasoning behind the answer? I'm sure there's a couple people out there asking why you say if it's warm, go up, you know,
Just
if
the way it
cold
is.
front, go down.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's just kind of the way it is.
It's the unwritten
It's-
rules of the lake.
It's kind of like sunlight.
Yeah.
Sunlight and cloudy.
Yeah.
Cloudy day, stay down.
Yeah.
If it's sunshiny day, you go up. You know, and that's a lot to do with watercolor. Watercolor means a lot. You know, sunshiny is always better when the watercolor's got a little bit of stain to it. When it's, you know, cloudy and stuff, it just makes the lower end easier
Yeah.
to fish. You know, would I throw a spinnerbait on the low end if it didn't blow this time of the year? No, not at all. But as soon as that wind blows, it changes everything. Because it disguises you also. You know, you're now kind of disguised. You're not just throwing a big old spinnerbait out there and it, you know, making a lot of noise and everything. When the clouds come and the wind comes, then it kind of disguises it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
makes a lot of sense.
But that's just always kind of been the way it is. It's not like it's something that, you know, have I seen it more this year? I've seen it more this year for one reason. Every Thursday it snows. Every Thursday. You guys say it's supposed to rain, you know, on Thursday. Hell, it's probably going to snow again. But you think about that. And the weekends, like the weekend that Robbie won, both days, is warming. It was slightly warming, okay? And by doing that, those fish moved up with it.
And the wind blew. It was a warm being warm. I think that the shallow water, typically when we say going up the lake, you know, shallower colored water is what you think more of when, you know, depending on how far you go. But I just feel like that area of the lake is subject to change more to frontal condition.
Right.
You know, shallower
Yeah.
water, colored water. It just, you know, Mother Nature has its hand on that a lot more than from the mouth of the glaze to the dam. And that's from a guy who hasn't fished it nowhere near as long as these guys. I'm just saying from what I've learned is that, you know, when you get a major change in weather, going left, that shallower, more colored water is just more subject for them to lock their jaw up and to change and be a lot tougher.
Probably.
From the mouth of the glaze to the dam, any given time of the year, I just feel like
It's
no
consistent.
matter what, it's just so much more consistent. You got depth, you got big, deep water, your odds are just a little bit better.
Yeah.
In a big bass tournament, you know, we throw a lot of this stuff maybe out the window because we're looking for one big fish, and I'm thinking about that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of it as a tournament angler, as a 5-fish angler. in terms of volume of bites. If you're a volume guy, it just seems like, you know, during those nasty fronts, either, you know, usually cold,
Yeah.
rainy, you know, miserable all of a sudden. It just that shallow water just changes, so that shallow, dirty water, it just locks them up. It's just something about it. That's just from the amateur's perspective, is like you like to say, Dad.
Yeah.
From us guys that haven't been here as long as some of these guys, that's what I see.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
I agree.
That's why I'm a big down the lake person, honestly, because even if you do go down the lake and it's a little bit off, you're not subject to be just stuck down the lake.
Yeah.
You know, you
Stuck
can
trying to
still
piece
turn
the puzzle
around
together.
and run up a little bit. Whereas if you do make that big run up to like the Buffaloes or Turkey Creek, Coal Camp Creek, you're there. I mean, you're stuck.
Yeah, you better figure it out.
Burnt your day.
And it might end up happening on a day like that. Big Red might show itself later in the afternoon. They might fire, but you're too late.
Yeah.
I gotta ask Dion what he thinks about that. What do you think about how I laid that out there?
The sun popping
Well,
out?
just weather, the lake
Oh,
being subject
absolutely.
to change from more, just so much more fickle to
The-
Mother Nature.
You betcha. The only time that the upper end of the lake, River Boys, the only real super consistent time up that lake is in the fall. That's the only time that it's really, really consistent to where every day you go up there, you can catch them and figure them out every day. In the spring, that thing will crap on you in a blink up there. and I mean, I've been all the way to where he won. You know, I've been all the way to Warsaw Dam,
Yeah.
you know, and spent lots of time up there. And like I say, in the springtime, I caught some big old stringers? Yep, sure have. Yep, I've caught some great big old stringers up there. But it can change in a blink, and when it does, it will screw you.
And the one
Big
thing
time.
nobody's mentioned, if you're up there and they open up Truman Dam, it's gonna change like that.
You're done.
You know,
Yeah, the main channel's done.
It's just so,
You know,
so
I
thick.
fished
So
this-
do those fish up there not relate to current like they do here, or does?
They do on in the summer and in the fall.
But this time of year,
In the springtime,
They don't
a little
like it.
harder on them there.
Your water level change, the closer you get to the dam, is so much more dramatic.
Yep.
You know, it could raise this much if you're up in Warsaw, and down the lake, you know, it's not even hardly affected.
Yeah.
You know, I've fished this tournament up there and been catching really good fish. I think one time I had close to a 6-pounder and another real nice one, and they turned the dam on, and I didn't catch another fish
wow,
that day
was that spring?
Mm-hmm.
How'd you catch them?
on a spinnerbait.
Yeah.
I mean, the baits are pretty consistent. You
Yeah.
might have to switch your colors and maybe a blade, you know, style or choice based on the water. But they're eating big shad, whether you're
Yeah.
in Warsaw Dam, you
What
know,
Dion
Warsaw
said,
or
yeah.
Bama. But those areas like Steve was talking about, you know, they can drop, that water temp can drop 10 degrees overnight. Where, you know, what Peyton's talking about.
Flat,
you know,
shallow water, the temperature changes quick.
Yeah.
I mean, overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, in a blink.
And the
These
color.
30-degree,
Looking at Sunday.
these 30-degree nights and stuff like that we had just a couple nights ago, guess what? That cools off quicker too.
Yeah.
Warms up quicker,
Way
cools off quicker.
Peyton, you know, mentioning water clarity, we are gonna have some rain over a couple days before the Big Bass Bash. And that could color up the water not only up in the river areas, but we are gonna be having some warming temperatures. And I know warming temperatures with some dirtier water is, you know, I've caught them pretty damn good up in Coal Camp and way up the Niangua and big big fish. And this is something I learned from Wayne. This is nothing I learned by myself. But what is the importance as we come into the Big Bass Bash, or what are your thoughts about water clarity this time of the year with the kind of conditions we're going to be having?
I really like fishing the low end, but ideally, if you were going to get to practice for say 3 days beforehand, I would take one day and go up the river. I would take one day and be down the lake, and then out of those two, I would kind of pick and choose where I wanted my third day, whether it was down or up, according to how you caught them. That way, you kind of got your bases covered. Like everybody said, we're in Missouri. You know, where they're calling for cloudy and rainy and windy,
Right.
but again, it might turn off and be bluebird.
Right.
So if you did have a day where you had a great day up the river, you might say, oh, all right, you know, I can go up there and try it.
Right.
I like clean water. I go up the river whenever I feel like I can win up the river.
Right. Yeah.
So down the lake is a big deal.
One thing about dirty water, if dirty water does happen on the low end of the lake, they're gonna bite out of it.
They're gonna
That's
what?
just, they're gonna bite out of it.
They love it that way.
But it ain't gonna happen.
Right.
I don't think it's gonna rain that much.
Well,
But
how-
if we got 2 or 3 days in a row rain and some of those creeks on the low end muddy up a little bit, that's the dumbest stuff you ever seen.
And that's the kind of thing. That's what I was kind of thinking. Also, Dion, is that
It's the best
the-
fishing
you know-
on Lake of the Ozarks.
Like, this is
When from the when the
this not
glaze
Yeah.
to the dam, if any of that muddies up, that's the best fishing you'll do on Lake of the Ozarks.
And I'm thinking, you know, when we talk about lower end or gravel, you know, you've got Indian Creek in the gravel. You've got Raccoon or whatever that's called. It's either Raccoon or Possum. I can't. What is it called?
Raccoon and possum.
Raccoon and Possum. And then you get into some of those big creeks up there too, Hawaiian Island behind there and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you get some rain, that can,
The Buck Creeks,
that,
that's
that
great
can,
water
the
there.
Buck Creeks, I mean, that can change
I saw
up.
it.
That, you can get to the backs of those and a good amount of rain. You may get some runoff coming in where you got some fresh water, but it dirties it up a little bit.
And add a little
Do you want that or do you want the clear water?
Then you throw some
I came
rain
in,
straight up.
I'll tell you a quick story. I came in one time, and Ernie Dougherty that owned Central Missouri Pro-Am. He calls me, he says, you gonna fish my tournament this weekend? I'm like, dude, I'm in Alabama. I said, if I miss the cut, I'll come home and I'll fish it. I drove home Friday night, jumped in the tournament. The next day, the whole low end of the lake was muddy. I weighed in 4 that day that weighed 25.
Oh, God.
Okay? Jackie Davis weighed in 5 that weighed 29.
Oh, my God.
Okay? And I, being 4 with 25, I was probably in 8th or 9th place.
Wow. Wow.
That's how good it will be. And,
Yeah.
it muddied up that week.
Right.
It muddied up that week. And I caught 5 the next day. Didn't have a spinnerbait in the boat with me.
No kidding.
Caught them all on a shad wrap the first day.
No kidding.
Didn't have a spinnerbait. I just drove home, dropped in the lake that night, and
Everything you
went
had.
fishing. Not a spinnerbait in the boat.
Wow.
Everybody wrecked them on a spinnerbait.
Wow.
I threw a shad wrap that long. It's the biggest one I had. And I put it on a 20-pound line. I threw it right on the beach, you know, and caught those 4 big ones. The next day, I weighed in 5 that weighed 30
Wow.
and still finished third.
On the shad wrap?
No, hell no. I got some
You
spinnerbaits.
finally got some spinner baits?
I got some spinnerbaits for that.
Now, on that, if I can ask you, the spinner bait, was it a big thumper Colorado blade
No.
spinner bait or what kind of
Doesn't
spinner
matter.
bait?
When that low end dingies up, throw something that's got a dangly on the back and a skirt on it, and yeah, trust me, because they're this deep.
Got it.
Every fish in the lake just goes whoop, moves
gotta
right up
have
on the
it.
bank, and when they get to the bank, they are hunting something to eat.
Got it.
And I mean,
That's awesome.
and it don't happen very often.
No,
It doesn't happen very often. We had it,
5 years ago.
yeah,
maybe?
4 or 5 years ago. It happened in the winter,
Right.
Yeah.
and
That's
it
pretty
wasn't as
awesome.
good. It wasn't quite as good because it started in like February,
Yeah.
and it just slowly started clearing up through the spring. But still, it was awesome. It's one of the best springs we ever had.
It was awesome.
So what I'm, so,
When you're on the lower end, landing it on the bank and dragging your spinnerbait
Oh,
in, it's
it-
like, you know, you're in a whole new lake almost at the
And,
when
and
you're
in that
doing it.
particular
Down there.
tournament,
Yeah.
you had fish on the main channel, you had fish on secondaries, you had them on rocky
Running
banks.
water, yeah.
Don't make any difference. Every fish in the lake scoots to the bank. And when they do, they're starving. They're
so
hungry.
I love it because what it sounds like, even with the rain, which could dirty up maybe the backs of creeks, it's worth checking those backs of those creeks and check that dirty water as well as checking the clear water and anywhere on the
You
lake.
just got so many options. here
Robbie,
in this lake.
Robbie, let me ask you, kind of like I asked Peyton and Dion there. So you're coming down Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
You're going to do a little bit of practice.
Yeah.
What kind of recommendations do you have?
Right.
for checking things out.
You know, there's a lot of guys that, you know, end up pre-fishing that say, man, I caught the one today that I needed, you know, and I get that, and a lot of guys will be like, hey man, you know, why did you even do that? Why would you even go? I get it, like you said behind the camera a little while ago. Man, these guys come from, I did a fishing license today from two guys from Colorado.
Nice.
They're coming from Colorado to come down here to spend a week.
They want to
go
have a good
fishing.
time.
You know, they might catch a great big one tomorrow or the next day, but, you know, so be it kind of thing. I personally think for those guys that come from far away, absolutely, get out there and maybe see what the fish are doing. Get you a few confidence bites. You know, you catch a big one, that's just the way it goes. You know, don't come into my store and be like, man, I shouldn't have done it. I did. No, man, you're out there having fun and you want to see what the fish are doing. Practice-wise, I'm like Dion. I would approach it like it's a new lake. Even though we do live here, I would approach it like a new lake. I'd, you know, start in the back of the creek and work my way out. And when I say that, we got so many big coves or creeks in this lake. And I like to start, you know, this time of year, you start thinking about the spawn and all this stuff. So, you know, go back to the back and work your way all the way out. I mean, and try to figure out a pattern. Get your moving baits going. You know, flip some wood. You know, fish the main lake point at the very end. You know, fish your secondary points. See if you get a bite on a straight channel bank. See if you get a bite on the flat. One thing we haven't talked about. A lot of guys have the forward-facing sonar nowadays too.
Yeah.
And it's such a big thing. Everybody talks about it. I would not overlook utilizing your forward-facing sonar. And when I say that, a lot of the fish are going to be caught shallow. We all know that. But there's still those fish, like Dion said, the ball and chain, dragging around a Carolina rig out there in that 10 or 8 to 12 foot of water. We got so much brush, so much cover on this lake. There's brush piles in front of 3/4 of the docks, you know. Use your forward-facing sonar as well. A lot of guys have it. A lot of guys don't, you know. I mean, if you don't, so be it. It's a big fish tournament. You're looking for one. You don't have to have forward-facing sonar, but utilize it. There's still going to be fish in that cover that you can see. You know, a lot of us have learned how to see the fish in the cover. So don't be scared to fan around and use your forward-facing sonar and use your spinner baits and A-rigs and jigs and all that stuff and find the fish. You know, just look. Just while you're fishing the bank is what me and Ben do a lot when we won them 2 derbies. Is one guy will be up there and we were focusing on the bank. Yes, we were. But one guy's always got his eye on that garment. You know, like kind of fanning around up ahead while you're doing like this. Oh, they're going right there off the bank. You know, you catch. But you're looking at this and you're like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and utilize this electronic. And I see a good piece of cover right up here with a blip right next to it. You never really know exactly what size they are because the way that thing's hitting it, but throw at it. See if you can get a bite. Utilize them. Electronics are there for a reason. Utilize them, you know.
Good stuff, Robbie. And I got a couple more questions for you. So with the electronics, yes, looking at, you know, cover and if the fish are set up on top of that cover or around that cover somewhere. How important is bait fish?
Oh, I love it. I mean, you love it. You love it. These fish are going to be feeding up. They know they're fixing to spawn. This is the time of the year that we catch these great big ones that are fattening up, you know, to slide up there and go through hell, you know. So I love seeing the bait fish. A lot of times, sometimes on your graph, you might not see them, but if you're chasing that wind, typically the bait is going to get blown around in that wind, you know, chasing your direct wind. This time of year, I just love chasing wind around.
And when you say that, I want to
because the bait is traditionally going to be there, especially if you get wind direction out of the same direction for multiple days in a row. Then it's like, look out, you know, because they're going to be, you know, the bait's going to be piled in there and so are the fish.
So kind of a little bit of a subtle thing, but important. So we are going to have big wind.
Right.
So do you want to be on banks regardless of whether it's the back of a creek or a secondary point or
matter.
where
Direct wind.
The wind is hitting directly
Absolutely.
on?
I love direct wind this time of year. Absolutely. Because the bait's going to be blown up there and it helps disguise your bait is what I like to say, you know, especially with some of the baits I like to throw, the moving baits. Dion hit on it earlier. You know, I'm more of a lower end fisherman. glaze at the lower end. And if the wind ain't blowing on this bank, I'm not gonna throw my spinner bait. Because when I can see my spinner bait all the way back to the boat, clear as day, I have zero confidence.
Right.
But if that wind creates that ripple effect, you know, and it does the same for the fish, they don't get the best look at it, right? So absolutely chase the wind. And you know, this lake is so big, it's like you could break it down into 4 different lakes, maybe 5 different lakes.
Right, yeah.
So I could go to a completely different area and be like, no, I do not want the wind.
Right.
I want to pitch something around and not have a bow the size of the arch in my line.
Right, yeah.
You know, unless you're the great Dion Hibden or something, you're not going to feel that bite or no one's on there.
Right.
Unless you're a good line watcher and a good, you know, line holder. So, absolutely chase your conditions and fish your strengths. I always say that, you know, during the Big Bass Bash, a lot of people come into my tackle store and, you know, they see all these big baits. Of course, we'll have some big baits. And I don't blame a guy for throwing it, but, you know, at the end of the day, fish something you're confident in. You know, like they were talking about a big swim bait. I guess you guys talked about that last video.
I was gonna ask you
don't
about
get a
that.
lot of feedback on big ass baits like that.
Yeah.
You know, you really don't, because you only get a few bites. So
What
I'm
about
not saying don't
what about
throw it.
that glide bait that
Maybe
you're
have
selling?
your buddy throw it while you're throwing something that's going to get a little bit more baits. You know, if you got a tandem in the boat, one of you take it for the team one day and maybe throw one of our hyper shads. We've been selling a lot of those glide baits.
And they're catching big fish.
They're catching a lot of big fish. That has been a very popular seller at my store. Have one of you guys throw something big like that, and have somebody else throw something traditional like a jerk bait, spinner bait, or you know, I wouldn't even be scared to throw a freaking buzz bait in a tournament like this.
Yeah.
You know, so we're getting to that time where it's very,
So you're not supposed to say that.
Well, I mean the
The
water,
tackle box is wide
the
open.
air
I
temp,
say it
the
all
air
the time.
temp is coming
50
up.
degrees, plenty warm.
Plenty
Yeah.
warm, plenty
Yeah,
warm.
yeah.
Them fish, they live it. Terry Blankenship, boy, I love listening to my guys like Dion and the guys like Terry. Terry's like, Rob, they're cold blooded anyway. You know, it's cold. It's cold to us, the water, but they're in this much water.
Right,
You know,
right.
throw a buzz bait. You know, throw some of this stuff. I mean,
Especially with the warming trend.
especially with the warming trends, especially with the wind. That wind is there's gonna be so many big fish brought in with this
Yeah.
if it blows the way it's gonna blow. So many.
It's gonna blow. Steve, how would you go about practicing?
Well, practicing, basically, you know, these guys are gonna go out there and just have a good time, have fun, you know what I'm saying? Just go out, have fun and fish. As far as practice goes, go out a little bit, you know, see this, that, you know what I mean? Don't burn yourself the whole day, don't run yourself in the ground and practice, because you need to do that during Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
Come on in, stop by here. I tell you what's fun, fishing out of a brand new boat like this. You wanna have some fun, come on in Thursday, trade in your boat, your old boat, we'll get you a new boat, you have fun all weekend, win that big bass bash, pay for that boat. That's my advice, get a brand new boat and have a better time on the water,
Yeah.
so.
I love it. Good stuff, Steve. Joe, how, you know, you fished the Big Bass Bash, and you might fish this one. How will you go about practicing, and what are your words of wisdom? You won a lot of tournaments.
If I was going to practice, you know, what Dion and Peyton said, and I've heard Dion say this many times, is if you're fishing that lower end and, you know, let's say glaze to the dam, you can't hurt those fish as much as probably the fish in the river. If you were going to kind of go more the route of what Steve was saying and maybe get in some of those creeks and hard to reach areas, you'd be better off seeing if you can access them rather than fishing.
Right.
You know, because that's going to be a lot of visible cover. And kind of back to what Rob said, if you start getting bit on something, you know, maybe move around, mark on your GPS some stuff that looks good. If you see a brush pile on the sonar or side imaging, don't necessarily worry about, you know, fishing those spots as much. And, you know, maybe, you know, if you're like, oh man, we're catching them on laydowns on the transition bank leading into the pocket, see if you can find some
Find more.
areas that
Pay
have
attention
that
to
cover.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry as much about catching the fish as doing that, you know, getting your baits right, and like they said, you know, having a good time.
Good
So
deal.
Go to Fitz's. They got all the baits we're talking about. You know, they have.
Yeah.
They got the E-Factor spinner baits, the swim baits.
Goes
you
on
know,
forever. We
They've
got a
got
lot of
the exact rod that I've been throwing swim baits on. I mean, if you got a question on, hey, I just got this and need to pair it up, you know, talk
Yeah.
to Rob and Ben. They fish. They know what they're talking about. and make sure your equipment's right.
That's a great, I was just gonna follow that up. He started heading into that. Make sure your equipment's ready.
Yeah,
Make sure
line, sharp hooks.
new line, sharp hooks, man.
And it's part of practice, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
part of the
make
practice
sure
part.
that everything's working.
School, don't bring a rod from 2 years ago that you ain't thrown in a while. I know a lot of people fish this tournament that haven't fished in a while. They
Right.
fish one time a year, maybe 2 times a year, and it's
Right.
a big bass bash. Man, it can happen to anybody in this event. Can get that winning fish bite.
Yeah,
Don't let it
Let it
fail
break off.
because of old
Exactly.
rickety line that's been on there for God knows how long. Tie a good knot. If you don't know how to tie a good knot, we'd be more than happy to show you. Check that equipment. That's so important because that's the only thing attached between you and that fish
Yeah.
is your equipment.
Fish a trailer hook.
Yeah,
All those.
all the right stuff, man. Make
If
sure
you're
all-
gonna fish for a big one, be prepared for it.
be
Right.
prepared for
Yeah.
it, please. There's nothing worse than breaking off on something because it's something that the ball was in your court and you dropped that damn ball because you didn't re-spool.
let's just wrap up here, guys. Just one final thought. I'll throw it out to the table for everybody to discuss. There's gonna be 3,000 anglers. First line's in the water at 6:30 in the morning, which means, I've seen this before, there's guys that 5:30 in the morning, they just gotta get to that one spot that they know they're gonna catch that big one. So that you're gonna have boats running around at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Talk to us a little bit about safety, and the importance of that. Also, let's talk just a little bit about there's so many anglers on the water that perhaps you just need to pull up to a bank and start fishing versus worrying about that one spot.
Joe knows a lot about that, so from experience, I think he should answer that.
Oh, use your lights. I've had one accident on this lake, and it was in the fog in a big bass bash. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but it was just somebody, making a mistake, no ill intention, just not paying attention.
Right.
Funny story. The biggest fish I've ever caught in this tournament, I caught because my lights didn't work. I noticed my lights weren't working. I thought, son of a gun. I said, I got to sit here until it gets light,
Yeah.
and then I'll go to my spot. And I thought, man, I've caught a lot of big fish over here. And it was about a mile before I got to my spot. I caught a 6.5 pound.
Yeah.
So don't
Lays
get in a
you right
hurry. Be safe.
Somebody getting killed.
Don't be buzzing around 50, 60 miles an hour in the dark. Wear your life jacket.
GPSs are not radar.
Yeah,
All
right,
they do is tell you where you're going. They don't tell you what's in front of you.
right.
So, I mean, you just can't, you're not in that big a hurry.
I don't think you need to be. And I'm a believer, like Dion said, there's fish everywhere.
Yep.
You don't have to be on that one spot first thing in the morning, because
It never
good
works out
news
if you
is,
think it's
good chance is, that ain't gonna produce the biggest fish.
But also be defensive. I will add to that. There's going to be your people that are driving too fast in the dark, or if it gets foggy or something like that. But on the other end of that spectrum, I'm a very defensive kind of boat driver. I'm pulling out of a creek,
My head's on a
and
swivel.
I'm like I'm at a 4-way stop sign before I go through.
Right.
You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? Some guys will come barreling out of there, and there's somebody coming down the main lake. That's how bad things happen. Just use your head. Be a defensive driver. Pay attention to your surroundings, and constantly keep your head, you and your partner, on the lookout, especially this weekend with that many boats out. The last thing we want is something bad to happen.
90% of the boats that end up touching each other, they're running at each other, coming at each other. One of them turn this way, they'll turn that way. Then they'll turn the same way, and they go
Right.
back and forth
Gotta know the
until
right
they're
way.
too close.
Right,
When you're coming at somebody and he makes the wrong decision, stop. Just let off plane. Stop. Wait till he goes by.
Yeah.
Because odds are, as you get closer, he's going to get nervous, you're going to get nervous, and you're going to keep turning back and forth, and one of you collides. I've seen that happen 3 times in my life.
yeah.
And most every time it was at a takeoff in a tournament going up the lake and other lakes coming down the lake.
Yeah.
And it's because what he's looking at 10 boats coming at him.
Yeah,
Okay, and the first one might not be always the first one he recognizes as much as maybe the one he's going to go to the left, and when he turns to the left and this guy turns to the right, and just stop. Give it 10 seconds and he'll be by you. You know, just
Yeah.
and you know, most people don't know how the red and green lights work on the front of their boat.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and when I say that,
I hate this.
everybody should have to take that test.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you know which side of the lake you're supposed to go on,
Yeah,
and it does make a difference.
yeah.
You know, everybody wants to cut in close to the shoreline and be the closest one to the shoreline.
But
That's actually not legal.
no.
If you go on the inside of a boat that's coming down the lake and you cut on the inside of him, you are actually breaking the law.
Yeah, you want to go to the outside. You want
Yeah,
to turn. You want to go
and
to the
put
right.
yourself in jeopardy.
Everybody
Yeah.
think go to the right. If you're coming straight on, go to the right.
Any doubt in your mind, go
Yeah.
to the right. But a lot of people don't, you know, they just
Yeah.
get in too hurry.
Well, anyway, we
These
got
boats are really, really fast.
there's 16 hours of fishing over 2 days. You'll be able to fish a lot of spots. Take your time. Be safe. Be patient. Work from the backs of the creeks out to the main lake. Whatever.
What about a winning weight?
Yeah, what's
Yeah,
that?
let's
Winning
do
weights.
winning
Let's talk about that right quick. So we are wrapping up here. So Joe, what do you think?
What's the biggest?
So the biggest bass
spring.
in the Big Bass Bash has been in the spring. It was a 796. It was caught underneath the Hurricane Deck Bridge.
796, are you sure?
Yep. By the towards Hahatanka, that highway.
Oh,
That Highway 54 bridge, Niangua Bridge, 796, and that was caught on I think that was caught on a jig.
Yeah.
And so, and then last year was like 780 something, and that was caught on a brush hog by a Bass and Bob member, up on the lower end.
Yeah.
And then Bob something or another a couple years ago caught a 7 something on a spinner bait up the river. So it's the last several years it's taken a 7. I think 1 year in the last 5 years there's been like a 690 something,
Six, yeah.
but it's been 7 pounders.
Yep, yep.
No, there's never been an 8 pounder yet.
I think this will be the year. I just think
Yeah, I can see it.
the water's still cold. The fish are, I mean, they're just thick. I think it'll take. I'm gonna go 823.
Woo, that a boy on a spinner bait.
Why not?
Why not? What do you think,
I'm
Steve?
gonna call 763 just to be semi-conservative.
That's right in the middle, yeah, 763, spinner bait, lower end, river.
You can't really call a lure
Yeah.
like that, but yeah, I'd say spinnerbait just because I like that the most.
Split shot
So,
rig.
Yeah, exactly. It could be anything. I remember going down to, we fished at Grand, remember? Everybody was just an ounce away from each other, 6 pounder. Then some lady caught an 8.5, and guess what? It was all over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But she separated herself that much from us just because she got it in front of a giant, which could happen to anybody here. If they're throwing a spinnerbait that's that, or a swim bait that's long, or if you're fishing a shaky head that's got an 1/8 ounce jig head.
Yeah, Justin Swat's caught 7+ on a Carolina rig with a Croco Gator swamp bug.
But that's a full size swamp bait. I mean, that's a good.
Yeah, no, it's a
Bait
chunky
for this
chunky
time of
creature
year.
bait. Yeah, Rob, what do you think?
I'd love to see the 8 pounder, but working at the tackle shop every year and being amongst this fishing every year, it's Wayne. I think of Wayne. Yeah, buddy,
Yeah,
it's gonna be an 8 pounder this year, guy. And it never happened. It freaking never happened. So I'm gonna play the safe card and just go like a 7 3/4, like a
Yeah.
a 789 or like a 780 big fish. Could be caught on anything. I'd hate to say a specific bait. I think spinnerbait's such a good call. These guys said, I think it'll be possibly on one of these glide baits. They become so popular that I really do see so many people are throwing it nowadays in big fish tournaments. I could see it on a glide bait or a big swim bait.
Right.
Those would be my 2 baits that I'll say, even though I think a spinnerbait's such a good call.
yeah, good deal, Rob. Hey, Rob, if you were fishing it, what bait would you have in your hand all day?
That glide
2
bait,
days.
that Alabama rig. I throw the Alabama rig to get, chase the wind, to get some bites going, and possibly catch some check fish, and maybe even the winner.
Yeah.
Period, end of story. And I would also be mixing in the glide bait and a brush hog. Those would be my 3 main baits, I'd have to say,
Right.
is those 3 right there.
Good deal, Rob. Thank you. Peyton? Big, what do you
I'm gonna
think?
be right there with Robbie. I would like to think an 8-pounder, but I think a heavy 790, 780, somewhere in there is gonna be. We have a lot of really big fish, and we got 8, 9, 10 pounders in here.
Yeah,
It never seems like you catch them. Yeah, you'll catch that on Friday.
yeah,
Turn around, you won't catch him on Saturday.
right,
So, and spinner bait, glide bait, a jig.
right.
A jig would be my bait.
Good deal. Thanks, Peyton. Dion?
824.
824. We're gonna have us a big one.
I'm just gonna get one bigger than Joe's.
That's
A
awesome.
little bit bigger.
What do you think it'll be caught on?
I think it'll be some sort of a, probably a slow bait, something jig, brush hog, lizard,
Right,
something like that.
right,
There's a ton of guys throw a spinner bait. A lot of guys throwing these glide baits, and yep, there's as good a chance catching one on one of those as anything.
got it.
But I still think that this is the right time of the year for a slow-moving bait to happen.
Yeah,
Guys gonna, I used to, before brush hog came about. Now that's been a while, but before brush hog came about, I threw a big old Texas rig lizard a lot.
Yeah.
Like an 8, 9-inch lizard, and caught the crap out of fish off the bed. And in that time frame,
Right. Yeah.
the whole month of April. I mean, we used to throw a lizard a ton, and you don't even sell many of them anymore.
I know. I was just gonna dial that back, and as he's saying that, I do sell during this time. It's select few maybe people, but them Magnum lizards made by Zoom, the Mag lizards, and I made a specific brush hog and lizard order from Zoom this week. That I don't even want to say the price of how much I spent on them, because we sell a lot of lizards still, and a lot of brush hog. But like Dion said, there's so many other baits nowadays that those baits almost get lost.
yeah,
In the mix of all this other stuff. Like we were just whispering a second ago, like this thing could be one on a wiggleboard crankbait.
right,
It's this big.
yeah, right, yeah,
That big.
yeah.
Lizard, 1/8 ounce anchor.
Got it. Good stuff, man. All right, well, thank you all. This is our final preparation series roundtable for the Big Bass Bash in spring of 2022. Watch bassandbob.com for individual interviews that we'll be having over the coming days. Keep an eye on the conditions. I think you've got an awful lot of information from these last several weeks. So thank you all very much for your participation.
One more thing, I just
Any
want to
final
say,
comments?
follow my dad. My dad does a great job with 92.3, is it? Or 92?
Yeah, 92.7. I'll be on the radio.
92.7, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I
yeah.
got that wrong. They're gonna kill me when they hear that, but
Yeah.
he does a great job with the radio, gives you the up-to-date weights, goes over all that stuff during the bash. Make sure you have the app on, well, not an app, but
The live leaderboard.
you could get the live leaderboard on your phone, save it as a shortcut, see what place your fish is in. So just make sure you tune in through the radio, even if you're out in a boat, fishing, to keep an eye on what's going on, what's shaking down. And me and Dad will be on that radio show talking about baits and patterns and what.
Yeah, what's work? We'll be talking about what's working.
What's
Yeah,
working
yeah,
as it comes
yeah.
in. So make sure everybody tunes into that.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Rob. Any other final thoughts? Thank you all very much, and thank you all for tuning in, and good luck in the Big Bass Bash. I hope every Bass and Bob member cashes every check.
Ties for
Thanks, guys.
Good luck, everyone.